Good afternoon. Welcome back. Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, please have a seat and enjoy your salad as we're getting ready for the next portion. Oh, thank you for that. Okay. Perfect. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakout session. I was able to pop in and out of the Global Vision Local Realities Exploring LA Startup Boom, as well as of supply chain innovation. Learned quite a lot about this ecosystem in terms of what's been happening. So we're going to continue the program. There's going to be a lot more. And to kick us off, we're delighted, as earlier when we're doing our early morning plenary, we heard from Lucius about the great company that is located right here called Rocket Lab from New Zealand. This is a great example of foreign direct investment and what foreign direct investment can mean for a local region. And they have called Los Angeles home and their headquarters, and we're able to move forward with a lot of these partnerships. I'm glad that this audience is going shh. All right, thank you. Or else I'm going to have to start singing, and you guys don't want me to do that. All right, so to kick us off, we're going to find out a bit more about Rocket Lab and their background first through a video, and now introduce our first keynote speaker of the afternoon. So let's roll the video.
Space is hard, or so you've been told. You see, doing things in space requires three things. It requires spacecraft, the hardware on orbit and the software that powers it, delivering services from space, conducting scientific research, and helping to expand humanity's reach deeper into the solar system and beyond. It requires launch vehicles, a reliable and affordable path to orbit. And it requires ground-based operations, mission operation centers, and a global ground station network to task and manage spacecraft on orbit. Historically, each of these things were managed by multiple companies, with conflicting schedules and long lead times at exorbitant cost. Rocket Lab has brought all three together, streamlining space and making it easier to use as a platform for innovation, exploration, and infrastructure. This is not an aspirational promise of future capability. We are delivering real spacecraft, real launches, and real missions to real customers right now. We pioneered a new generation of rockets, one that gave small satellites affordable, dedicated access to space for the first time. Right now, in our state-of-the-art factories, an Electron rocket rolls off the production line every 20 days, ready for the journey to space, launching from one of our 3 dedicated pads across 2 hemispheres. Right now, satellites supporting defense, intelligence, science, education, and commercial innovation are being prepared for flight, ready to join the 150 other satellites launched to orbit by Electron, and counting. Right now, spacecraft destined for Mars, Venus, and innovative missions in orbit closer to home are in development and production in our clean rooms, ready to deliver groundbreaking science and vital services to millions of people. Right now, in labs and manufacturing lines across 5 states, our team are delivering high-performance spacecraft components that will enable some of the world's most ambitious missions, from the solar panels powering humanity's return to the moon and the spacecraft software enabling new defense capabilities. With flight heritage on more than 1,700 missions, our proven space systems technology is delivering mission success right now. And as for the future, we're working on that right now too, with a new generation launch vehicle designed specifically to provide access to orbit for the spacecraft and constellations of tomorrow. From idea to orbit, Rocket Lab is delivering it. Right now.
First, let's give them a round of applause. A rocket company right here in Southern California in Los Angeles County. It's not easy for international companies to leave their home country and find a location that's suitable, and for them to basically select Long Beach as their headquarters. It's because of some of the things that we learned throughout the morning already, but Lucius was mentioning earlier in terms of the innovation that's happening right here in Space Beach, right here in Long Beach, in terms of the investments that the city's making, but also the entire educational system that we have throughout Southern California, the workforce talent development system, and also the supply chain coming together. So we're moving things around a little bit. I want to give you this video first as a background before we bring on the keynote speaker later on in the afternoon. But in order for us to have this entire ecosystem work, we also need our international partners to work very closely with us. As we were seeing earlier before with the Consul General of France, that's one example in terms of what consulates can do. They bring the companies to Los Angeles, they showcase what there is to do here, and they connect us with the right partners. But I was mentioning also earlier during the day that Los Angeles is home to the third largest consular corps in the world. We're only behind New York and Hong Kong, and we have close to 100 countries represented right here in Los Angeles. And these countries are here is because of not only our industries, not only of the opportunities that are here, but also because of their own population. Los Angeles is home to many, many different diasporas. So I believe we have over 20 diasporas that call the largest diasporas located here as the largest population. So for example, we're the largest Korean city outside of Korea. I don't know whether you guys know that. The largest Filipino community outside of the Philippines, largest El Salvadorian community outside of El Salvador. So all these nationalities and all these countries have their population located right here. And that's why they need their government resources and their partners to be able to be here. And that's why the consulates are located here. And Los Angeles being such a vibrant market for that, we also need leaders to bring together this consular corps to make sure that their needs are met. And many of these consul generals, they don't just serve Los Angeles. They usually represent multiple states, from Washington to Hawaii to Arizona. And yet at the same time, we get to basically have them here to access all of it. And so that's why I'm super happy and super delighted to introduce our first panel speaker, who is the Consul General of Canada in Los Angeles, but also the Dean of the Los Angeles Consular Corps, which is, again, the third largest in the world. This person is Mr. Zabe Sheikh. And Zabe began his mandate as a Consul General of Canada in Los Angeles in 2018. He is the Government of Canada's senior representative in Southern California, Nevada, and also Arizona. He comes to the posting after an extensive career in media and entertainment industry, having worked as an actor and producer in theater, film, and television. His work includes acting roles in Deepa Mehta's film Midnight's Children, as well as starring in the CBC comedy series Little Mosque on the Prairie, which has been seen in more than 80 countries. Prior to joining us in LA, Mr. Sheikh was the film commissioner and director of entertainment industry for the city of Toronto. In that role, he oversaw and grew the city's screen, music, and live festivals, sporting events, and tourism sectors, helping double the value of film production in Canada's largest city, which surpassed $2 billion in 2016. With that background, no wonder he fits right in Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Dean of the Los Angeles Consular Corps and the Consul General of Canada. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks so much, Stephen. Thank you, everyone. And let's give a hand to Stephen and his LAEDC team, Allison and the team, for putting together a great Select LA Summit, another one. Before I begin my remarks officially, I did want to take a moment to acknowledge that here today we are enjoying this summit, we're enjoying this lunch and these remarks and videos and presentations here in LA, in Long Beach, on the ancestral lands of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples, the traditional caretakers of the water and land on which we program, convene, discuss, and celebrate. We honor and pay respect to the Gabrielino Tongva ancestors and the Gabrielino Tongva community today, which continues to nurture this land and water through which they continue their work, whether it's traditional practices, whether it's art, whether it's education, or whether it is activism. And in so many ways, Canada finally pledges its support for these essential undertakings. Thanks so much. As you heard from Stephen, I have the good fortune and privilege to not only represent Canada as its senior representative here, but also as the Dean of the Consular Corps. And I want to shout out all the countries and all the representatives here today. Yep. Give a wave. There they are. They're all here. Thanks so much. It's this global community of citizenry and nations that make LA and Southern California what it is for the world, because it takes both the host nation, the host city, and the host region, but also those great visitors, those great businesses, and those great cultural bridge builders to make a real investment and a real impact in a great place like Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Southern California. Whether you're talking space, as you saw in the video, supply chains, or whether you're talking sports, media, and entertainment, because of the Hollywood complex and the Dream Machine, it is vibrant for all of us around the world. I've had the good fortune of being in Los Angeles for 5 years, 6 years now, I guess, based on that 2018 introduction, Stephen, in terms of how long I've been here. And LA, of course, is, although I'm not an Angelino, you end up feeling like an Angelino as soon as you're here for at least, I'd say, a year or more, because everyone just sort of embraces you, brings you in, and that global community really helps foster and feed your engagement in the community. So I couldn't be happier to be here. Also, once you get over the June gloom, it's the weather's a lot better than Toronto, trust me. And look, LA needs no introduction in a way, but of course we're here to talk about the great impact that Los Angeles has. And I'm going to speak a little bit from the Consular Corps' perspective. As Stephen said, it's almost 100 nations represented here, the third largest Consular Corps in the world, after Hong Kong and New York. And then, of course, I want to speak, if you don't mind, a little bit from Canada's perspective, because Canada and Mexico, of course, are the USA's two greatest partners. And in terms of how we represent globally, Canada and the U.S. Have an unprecedented and unique relationship, because we are the only binational command in the world where we help secure each other's land, seas, and skies in terms of security from a global perspective. And a secure continent and a secure region is an economically thriving and prosperous region. So a shout out to all those women and men who serve on both sides of the border. Look, we talked about and you're hearing from a lot of folks around all the businesses and all the sectors. But let's sort of lens down a little bit, at least for a keynote moment. First, in LA, we are. Los Angeles is the world's most important cultural hub. We know that. Diplomats here from the Consular Corps are working hard to link their film, music, and television content and creativity to global audiences through LA. And for Canada's part, I'm sure you all know some of the famous Canadians you've probably heard of, or maybe you don't know, but folks like Celine Dion, Justin the Biebs, you know what I'm talking about? The Weeknd, the Ryans, Gosling and Reynolds, Denis Villeneuve. If you've seen Dune, you know what I'm talking about. Celine Song, the great director and writer, hail from what we call the Great White North. And I know, you know, especially that concert that happened last night at the Forum. I don't want to get involved in that Drake-Kendrick Lamar diss battle sort of moment, but you get my picture when I say, you get my drift when I say that Canada's representing on so many levels, music and otherwise. And of course, our consulate, and a shout out to our team. We continue to help Canadian businesses and help Canadian creativity make its mark newly through a legacy building systems like our accelerator programs. But of course, this starts way back when Mary Pickford took that train from Toronto to Los Angeles, back when Charlie Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks, and herself were creating United Artists and really set that stage for where Hollywood would impact the world. So Canada and LA have had strong cultural connectivity way back when, we're talking over 100 years years now, over a century. We're also, of course, lucky and fortunate to be at the city and region which is at the forefront of the fight against climate change, really with innovative policies and innovative programs and activities. Countries around the world are well aware that we need to address shared environmental priorities in terms of energy, of course, and supply chains and securities and emissions, clean transportation, clean tech, and of course, environmental stewardship. We all know how climate change affects us all, and sustainability requires the whole of the global community to work together, and all that is happening here in Los Angeles, in Southern California. Where California goes on that mountaintop, if you will, the rest of the country goes. And where the rest of the country goes, the world follows. You know that here, especially for those Angelenos, tried and true, have been here for generations and decades. We're also, as we talked about earlier, the global sports complex of the world. LA will, of course, host the FIFA World Cup in 2026, and then in 2028, the Olympic and Paralympic Games. We're all proud of that. The Consular Corps is going to be at full throttle as we approach those major events. We're already starting to work on exactly making sure that all our global communities are connected in terms of the protocols, the security, and of course welcoming those high-level delegations and the athletes and their families from around the world. And we're really looking forward to showcasing their unique relationship, of course, as they showcase their amazing and unique talents coming up. And then we're talking about one of the world's leading, best, and most important economic hubs when we think about Los Angeles and Southern California. Los Angeles has the third largest economy of any metropolitan area on Earth. I'm talking behind only Tokyo and New York City, with a GDP of over $1 trillion. The Consular Corps is here to build those trade links, those commerce links, those economic security and supply chain links to support our domestic companies from a global market expansion level, representing. Stephen talked about, and you saw the video of Rocket Lab from New Zealand, and of course you'll be hearing from their CFO soon. But that's just one example of the many nations that make sure their companies have a global footprint through the Los Angeles and Southern California region. So my advice to everyone here is that please get in touch with the Global Consular Corps. Get in touch if you happen to be connected to a nation that's represented. We're almost 100 strong, so you will find your senior government's representative, or that country that you're connected to, or your heritage or your family is from, or perhaps the business that you want to take globally. You can also speak to the consuls generals and the honorary consuls here and their trade teams, because they will help you not only make sure that you host great businesses from their countries, but help you expand globally into their countries. And Canada is no exception, and our team is here today. So please stay in touch with us and continue to work with us, please. The other thing that's so great about this city and this region is its diversity and inclusivity. We've seen that time and time again in terms of what Los Angeles does, how it's a home for global representation, how it's a home for diverse identities, how it's a home for all identities to be able to work and be and live and commune together. It's something that's incredibly important to Canadians. My home city is Toronto. That's where I was born. Another city which values its diversity, but more importantly values its efforts towards inclusivity for that diverse representation and citizenry. And we know that LA and Southern California has exactly those ideals, which is why, as Stephen was saying, there's also the most amount of Canadians that live anywhere in the world live in California. So we're all amongst you, but in a friendly way, not in kind of like a zombie way, you know what I'm saying? The Canadian apocalypse. No, I'm kidding. So far, Kendrick won, Drake nothing, I know, for all you SoCalites. But we'll get back. We'll get there. Look, We're talking also about integrated supply chains. You heard, I know, from the Mexican Consul General earlier in the supply chain panel, because our team was in that room and everyone's been speaking highly about the comments that were made in that panel. And this is the place where those integrated supply chains matter, but also come to live and make an impact globally. And that's what we talk about when we're talking about economic security. We're talking about top investor, a leader in AI. We're talking about zero-emission technology. We're talking about responsible and critical minerals supply chain. And we're talking about the many connections, the people to people, the company to company, the research, the academic commitment to investing and innovating, which helps maintain LA's place as the most competitive place in the globe. Canada, of course, stands side by side with the US in recognizing that economic security is an integral part of the defense at home. I mentioned we're the only binational command in the world. Well, that's how we look at things. And so we make sure that across North America and the world, in these times of course, heightened tensions, geopolitical uncertainty, it is more critical than ever that we rely on our allies and our friends and our partners to make sure our supply chains are resilient, they're secure, they're transparent, and also they have high degree of ethics as well as excellence. With links from the Indo-Pacific to the Americas and around the world through its ports, industries, and diverse cultures, Los Angeles is definitely at the nexus of global trade routes. We're here at the port today. We understand that supply chain delivery system. We live it, we see it, we are part of it. The team, from whether it's the Consular Corps or the Canadian Consulate, are really grateful for the friendship and partnership that we have with the LAEDC. As you look to tie your businesses, communities to Los Angeles and Southern California. If you haven't already, I know you're here today, but make sure you get better connected and more connected with the LAEDC, because their team provides an impressive array of services and products, whether it's economic analysis, whether it's those links to businesses across the country and city, or whether it's a wide array of services for those international delegations. I know that the Consular Corps is very proud to partner with LAEDC, including, as I said, our Canadian consulate, because in fact our Canadian ambassador to the United States, the first woman ever ambassador for Canada to the United States, Kirsten Hillman, visited Los Angeles earlier this year, and we had a very successful and targeted roundtable, business roundtable in partnership with LAEDC, which gave critical insights into the local business potential, the opportunities, the challenges to Canadian companies. And of course, last month, the LAEDC provided a great briefing to the entire diplomatic community on how to collaborate and how to look for those investment opportunities. So I look forward to that updated stats that we've given. I know there's some hard copies, and there's going to be sort of virtual and digital launch of those stats on the 2024 California FDI rankings and report. But I just wanted to say thanks so much for having me. Thanks so much for always having Canada as a great partner, and thanks for having the entire Global Consular Corps as a great partner, LAEDC. Have a great rest of the summit. Look forward to meeting you all. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Consul General, and thank you for your leadership in bringing together the Consular Corps community together. It's so needed right now that we provide those assistance to our international partners. So earlier you saw the great video from Rocket Lab about this New Zealand company that's called Long Beach home. And I'm delighted that their CFO, Mr. Adam Spice, will be joining us as our keynote speaker, providing a bit more context and information about the great things that Rocket Lab is doing right here in Long Beach, right here in Los Angeles County. Mr. Spice has served as Rocket Lab's Chief Financial Officer since 2018, and prior to Rocket Lab, he was the Vice President and Chief Financial Officer at MaxLinear, a provider of radio frequency, analog, and mixed signals integrated circuits for the connected home, wired and wireless infrastructure, and industrial and multi-market applications. Throughout his career, Mr. Spice has played key roles in SimWave Corporation, Standard Microsystems Corporation, Broadcom, and Intel. His background is very impressive, and to bring that to Rocket Lab and now to add to the fabric and the tapestry of Los Angeles, we're just so delighted to hear from him about his role at Rocket Lab. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Adam Spice.
All right, hopefully you can, yeah, it sounds like you can hear me. So I've got some materials I'm gonna run through, but first of all, I would normally say Canada, Canada, Canada. Those Canadians can go on forever. Like there's nothing they can't say about Canada, but I actually hail from Toronto myself. So you're surrounded more than you think you are. Actually, there's a lot of us here. And pretty much only in this area would you see a Canadian CFO of a Kiwi founded company that's done something that's pretty unprecedented. When you just think about Rocket Lab for a bit and kind of what it's accomplished, a lot of people are probably a lot more familiar with SpaceX, right? That's kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the launch business globally, and certainly the 800-pound gorilla in the LA area. And to think of what Rocket Lab, and particularly our founder, Peter Beck, who's now actually Sir Peter Beck, he was knighted by King Charles a few weeks ago for his accomplishments and contributions. But has anyone here been to the South Island of New Zealand? A few people. It can be a pretty bleak place when you get outside of Queenstown. There's not a lot there, and so from somebody from pretty humble roots in Invercargill, New Zealand, to actually start a company that today, actually about a little over an hour and 15 minutes ago, we had our 50th launch of our Electron launch vehicle, which is now, thank you. It's now the fastest rocket ever to reach 50 launches. So we had faster than SpaceX, faster than any of the Russian rockets and so forth. So we had our first test launch in late 2017, and as of this morning, we've had 50 launches. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the interesting things that we're doing to develop the space ecosystem. And we've got a very exciting new rocket that's coming to market next year called Neutron. If you think about our current rocket today, is about 70 feet tall, maybe a little over a meter in diameter. And it can put a 300-kilogram payload into low Earth orbit. Neutron is significantly larger. It's over 150 feet tall, 7.5 meters in diameter at the base, and can deliver 15 tons to low Earth orbit. So it'll become a very direct competitor to SpaceX's Falcon 9 and bring a lot of much-needed competition and incremental capacity to the launch market. So our goal all along has been open access to space to improve life on Earth. The company takes it very seriously. We're a mission-oriented company, so when you think about how you motivate your employees, there's lots of ways to do that. But for us, it's really about mission. And if you were to visit any of the locations of Rocket Lab, you would basically see the fact that people are very passionate about what they're doing because they don't just believe that they're building widgets or providing some kind of a software service that may be a little more ephemeral, but it's really about how do you make life better on Earth by deploying payloads to space that allows us to communicate better, to monitor climate change and so forth. So we're doing very important things and the people are very motivated by the mission. If you look at Rocket Lab at a glance, we've now put 185, actually as of this morning, we will put 190 satellites because the rocket this morning was carrying 5 Internet of Things or IoT satellites for a French company called Kinéis. They were put on orbit this morning, so we now have 190 satellites over 50 missions. The prior 2 launches actually were 2 launches that we did for NASA that were separated by about 10 days from each other, and those were to monitor emissions from the poles, to really understand how light is being reflected from the ice across the north and south poles. So again, we work on very important mission-critical things. We have a deep heritage where we've put over 1,700 pieces of technology on various missions over our history. We have 3 launch pads, and I'll show you some of the infrastructure on an upcoming slide. But we launched from both Wallops Island, Virginia, from a NASA range, as well as 2 launch pads in the North Island, New Zealand, about 400 kilometers southeast of Auckland. So we are the second most frequently launched vehicle, just behind SpaceX. So it makes for an interesting business when you wake up every morning, you go to sleep each night thinking about how do you compete with Elon Musk. It makes it quite a challenge, but we're managing to pull it off, and I think we have some surprises up our sleeves for him. We are very diversified. We operate now in 3 different countries. So we have New Zealand, we have the United States across 5 states, and we also have operations in Toronto as well. And so we're a very diversified workforce, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. If you look at this global footprint, you can see those locations. Long Beach is our headquarters, and we'll talk about why Long Beach became our headquarters a little bit later. But we have operations in Long Beach, we have operations in Denver, we have in Albuquerque, Stennis, Mississippi, Wallops Island, Virginia, Silver Spring, Maryland, Middle River, Maryland, and Toronto. So we have a pretty far-flung operation now, and we really kind of tap all the different capabilities that we can access around each of those locations. We have about 2,000 employees. About 1,200 of those are in the U.S. About 800 of those are in New Zealand. When we started, when I joined about 6 years ago, we had a total of about 100 employees. Again, now we're up to 2,000 employees, so very rapid growth, and our growth in the Southern California area has been on par with that. If you look at our customers, we have a wide range of customers, both commercial customers and government customers. And amongst the government customers, we split those amongst civil. So you think about civil people being like NASA versus the Pentagon is obviously on the defense side of the house. So we lift for a range of customers. Most recently, about let's say 6 months ago, we won our biggest contract to date, which was a $515 million contract to build satellites for the Space Force. So a lot of people think about Rocket Lab as a rocket company, rightfully so. That's how we got our start, and that's what we're best known for. But we generate about 70% of our revenue from the satellite part of our business, and only about 30% from launch. So we've become very diversified, and we do a lot more than just launch other people's satellites. We build satellites for them. And then ultimately, longer term, our ambitions are to have, very much like if you're familiar with SpaceX and Starlink, they have actually used their launch capacity or launch capabilities to put their own assets on orbit. With Starlink, we have very similar ambitions ourselves, and we're strong believers that if you do the hardest thing first, which is launch, because there's only a handful or two of organizations in history, government or private, that have ever successfully created a launch program. We're now one of those companies, and if you have that capability, you can discern kind of which applications on orbit you think are most attractive, and you can go address those more capably than people that have to rely on other people for their launch. As I mentioned, we're the second most frequently launched vehicle. Today, again, was our 50th launch, so that was very exciting. Now, kind of what we're focused on delivering next really is Neutron, which is that much larger launch vehicle that will compete directly with Falcon 9. And you can see a depiction of the vehicles here just to give you a sense of scale. And what's really different about Neutron is that if you look at Falcon 9, that was designed 20 years ago. They've done a lot to innovate around the rocket to basically make it reusable. So reusability is kind of the new standard in the launch business. And so Neutron, of course, will be reusable. And we'll be making all of the engines and avionics here in Long Beach. We'll be making composite structures a little bit closer to the launch range, just given their size and the difficulty to ship those on roadways and so forth. But a lot of the content and innovation and know-how is really coming out of this headquarters location in Long Beach. So we're very proud of what we've been able to build here and the contributions from the local community. Again, as mentioned, people aren't as familiar with us as maybe some things that SpaceX has done, but I don't know if anyone caught the CNN special that was aired over last weekend about the James Webb Telescope. So we have technology. Our solar panels actually are driving the James Webb and the Mars rovers and so forth. So a lot of the things that you see on space, if you hear about a program, it's very likely that Rocket Lab has a piece of technology on that or has launched that capability to orbit. So we're very proud of that. So it's great to look back and see that we were on 1,700 missions that are on orbit, but we're also working on over 220 missions right now that are yet to be launched. And those serve a wide variety of applications and needs, including science and research, to better defense capabilities to protect the nation, better communications capabilities to allow everyone to stay more interconnected. So we're working on a lot of very cool things. So the future indeed is very bright. We have a lot of things on our plate, and I'm continually stunned at how many things we have to juggle at the same time to run our business. We're a bit of a different breed of a space company in the fact that most space companies buy things from other people and integrate them together. That's what a traditional prime model looks like if you think about a Lockheed Martin or a Raytheon or a Northrop Grumman. What we do is we actually build all of the key subsystems in-house. So we've gone out, we've acquired companies, we've acquired 4 companies since I've been there. And then we continue to develop more capabilities organically so that we can go to our customers and say, hey, give us your idea, and we'll ultimately put it on orbit. And I think this was most recently demonstrated with a contract that we won, again, with the Pentagon, something called Victus Haze, which is a mission that has us actually build the satellite and launch the satellite on our own vehicle and put on orbit to show resiliency in space and rapid response and so forth. So we are Probably, actually, I think there's only one other company right now that can really claim they could do that, which would be SpaceX. So we've really put ourselves in a very rare set of companies. So we do a lot of things across the technology roadmap. If you look at that satellite, there's a few examples of the things that we actually build in-house and are able to bring to the market in an integrated solution. So again, very differentiated, very unusual. We think this is really kind of the way of the future. So probably a little bit more of interest to folks in the room is, what was our journey? How did we end up in LA County? As I mentioned, Pete came from very humble backgrounds in Invercargill, New Zealand. And when he started the company, he got it running to a certain point, but then when he realized that, really to have access to the broader market, you had to have a U.S. presence. You need to have a U.S. headquartered business, particularly for our business. There's something called ITAR, which really controls, there are controls around the trading and handling of, let's call it weaponry, if you will. So we have to, if you want to do business with the U.S. government with certain sensitive applications, you have to be a U.S. domiciled company and fall under the ITAR regime. So Pete decided to come over. He did a tour of the entire United States. He obviously went to Cape Canaveral. He went to lots of different places and ultimately decided that LA really represented the best location to base the company in. And that was for a few reasons. And we'll get to those on the next slide. But essentially, we did this in 2015. And then if you kind of looked at where we started in Huntington Beach. I think it was, I think Pete got off the plane at LAX and took a tour around and thought, wow, this is a pretty nice little community. We'll settle our roots here. And then realized that it didn't have the infrastructure, it didn't have the amenities, it didn't have the supportive government that we really needed to grow the business the way that we were going to need to. So we up and pivoted to Long Beach back in 2020. And what are some of the reasons for that? Well, I think, the Port of Long Beach, is certainly important. I mean, when you're dealing with the kind of heavy hardware that we deal with, not only do we make and manufacture rockets, but in the process of making those rockets, we use some pretty heavy equipment. So we bring in these very, very large scale 3D printers, milling machines, all kinds of different things that are required to make these large, complex mechanical vehicles. And so having the port nearby is very, very helpful, and it's going to become increasingly strategic for us as we also, kind of look to have larger and larger vehicles coming into the country and also operating, landing barges, very much like SpaceX does for its operations. And then LAX. So as painful as LAX is to deal with personally, I'm flying out of there on Saturday to go back to Canada of all places, to close the loop on that one. But LAX is super. When it comes to routes and being able to travel internationally, I mean, there's no airport that compares to it. So Pete looked and said, where can I get a direct flight, not only from Auckland, but also from Japan and from Europe and so forth. LAX was a clear answer, and we wanted to be very close to LAX. And we also use LAX quite a bit actually for expedited shipping as well, for things that can be shipped via air. And then the Long Beach Airport, probably my favorite airport of all airports that I've ever used. It's very convenient, it's very small, it's incredibly convenient. So it's helpful for us to stay in touch with our other businesses across the other states that we work with. So direct flights to Albuquerque, New Mexico. It gets us to the East Coast relatively simply as well. So it's a great airport, and so that was a key attraction as well. But I think probably the biggest thing is when you look at the advantages of operating a business in this part of the world, it's really all about, there is I think massive might be an understatement, right? Massive local talent pool who in our case actually have a lot of experience. So if you think about the heritage of this area, there was, think about Boeing, before that, McDonnell Douglas, and you've got, all the legacy of the Raytheons of the world and so forth. I mean, there is deep, deep, deep talent in this area in what we do specifically. So that was important. And, in my background, I've worked at a lot of different companies that have gone through rapid growth. And a lot of times, the biggest thing is how, if you get an opportunity in front of you, how do you execute on that? How do you scale very rapidly? Because a lot of people underappreciate the complexity of scaling. And people are the hardest part of scaling. So in my past, when we wanted to scale a business, we'd look to places like India, for example, where there's a tremendously large labor pool. They're pretty sophisticated, obviously, on the side of semiconductors and computer science. But then you're dealing with a team that's all the way across the planet. You've got all kinds of challenges to deal with managing that workforce. But here in LA, you get that without having all the inconvenience of being in a far-flung location where you have to deal with a lot of other cultural issues and so forth and challenges. So for us, it was a great place to scale. I think it doesn't take a lot of convincing to get people to move here. Particularly if you're bringing somebody in from Chicago or Toronto or anywhere else in February, it's pretty easy to get them to come here. And if you look, like in the last 90 days, we've moved 32 people to this area. I mean, that's a pretty standard clip for us. So I think as deep as the talent pool is here, you're never going to find everything that you need in one place. And so having a location that's attractive for people to come and establish their families and build their careers, this has been the easiest place by far I've ever worked as far as attracting talent to, because people just love the lifestyle and all the amenities. I mean, see, like on days today, it's not hard to appreciate that. And so you can see the results. We've scaled pretty dramatically. We went from 114 people at the end of 2019 to 486 now here in Long Beach, with another almost 150 openings. In fact, I'm sure by the time I get back to my office, that 147 is probably 160 or 170. Continue to just open up massive amounts of jobs. And we've hired those across 50 different job categories. And those 50 different job categories aren't just like nuances of like, a CNC machinist level 1 to a CNC machinist level 2. These are like, CNC machinists to assembly technicians to fluid dynamics engineers to RF engineers to supply chain people to cost accountants. I mean, we really hire across the board. And again, very, very difficult to find that breadth of skill sets in many other places. But it's very, very easy to do that here in the LA area. And I think the thing, we're also creating opportunities for people. It's not like we're coming in here to try to get, I would say that LA is not necessarily known for being a low-cost area, so wages aren't necessarily the lowest. But we've actually come in and offered a premium to market, so we've significantly gone above the median wages for our job categories. And I think probably most importantly, because I've seen this throughout my career, is we're creating generational wealth-building opportunities for many of our employees through a very aggressive and generous stock ownership program. And I just have personally seen what that can do for families, where you can create that generational wealth, give people the opportunity to really create something that'll carry forward for generations and help establish their families in a very different way. And I think with that, hopefully that provides a little bit of some context for why we selected this area. I think we've been super pleased. Our experience has been largely with Long Beach in the LA area, and I can tell you, having worked with lots of different local governments, I've not worked with one that's better. When we were establishing ourselves and trying to get our operations up and running, which were pretty complex and involved, if that meant calling the city and say, hey, in order for us to keep our schedule, we'd really appreciate it if you can help make sure that we have our fire inspection lined up for this date. And if you can help us, work with the city planners to make sure we've got all that we need on the facility side. And you can't underestimate the value of that, because a lot of times those can be huge roadblocks that are impediments to running your business, hiring people, and just, kind of kicking off your business. So again, super appreciative of Lucius and all the team in the Long Beach City Hall, and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And in the words of the Maori, kanui te mihi. But since you're Canadian, I guess it's just thank you, right? Fascinating information. I think both Zabe and Adam have done my job, so you guys know why folks are choosing Los Angeles, and I guess end of conference, right? No, lot more to do, and it's wonderful to hear some of the reasons why Rocket Lab has chosen Los Angeles, which is some of the information that we would like to bring you as well. One thing, though, that Adam said I do want to address is that he was talking about that Los Angeles is not the low-cost center, and we know this, and we agree with this. Last year, during the luncheon panel, we actually talked specifically about this, and we had Dr. Richard Tang, who's back again with us this year by popular demand because of his great presentation, looking at cost analysis between Los Angeles and some of the other regions in California against Texas and New York. And what we found is that I think the tagline was cheaper is cheaper, cheaper is not better. And folks are choosing Los Angeles because we're better, because we have better talent pool. And when you look at the longevity of growth patterns for a lot of these companies, they need to basically recruit the talents that are here. And because of what we heard earlier, with about 118 higher education institutions providing some of the most diverse talent pool in the world located at one location, that's the reason why people are choosing places like Long Beach and Los Angeles to make sure that they're able to grow. So we're delighted, and thank you, Rocket Lab, for bringing over 600 jobs to this region and really creating the generational wealth that will basically help tackle some of those issues that we're facing together as a region. Another point I also want to discuss as well, I don't see her suit here, so I think she left. Earlier in the panel, Courtney LeBau, the Los Angeles World Airport Commissioner, was talking about the tens of billions of dollars that LAX is putting into the LAX facility. So Adam, in the next few years, you're going to have an amazing experience going through LAX. And when you look at LAX, you'll look at it the way that you look at the Long Beach Airport. You're going to love it, and it's not going to be as difficult because the people mover is going to be in place. You're going to, if you heard that panel, it's pretty exciting to basically see how we're going to completely transform this entire region. Knowing that LAX was created years ago, back in 1920s, it's really a postage stamp airport located in an area that was never meant for this growth. And then Los Angeles grew to this enormous metropolis population of 10 million people, but really serving the greater Los Angeles region of 18.7 million people. That's why you see the congestion. But we were never happy with it. And that's why with this new investment, we're going to transform the whole experience, along with the Port of Long Beach, the Port of LA, the number 1, number 2 container ports in North America. Now you have access to the world. And with our Dean of the Consular Corps, with this almost 100 countries represented here, when you reach LA, you reach the rest of the world. So delighted that you guys were able to hear from the keynote speakers why Los Angeles is the location to be. And now, the next part, the data. We mentioned earlier before the FDI report, the Foreign Direct Investment Report. This is about 10 years ago that we had this conversation. And our longtime partner and friend, Brian Swords, where are you? Right there. Thank you so much for years and years ago coming and basically saying, hey, Stephen, LADC actually did a report on foreign direct investment. However, we only had it for 1 year. I think we're tracking 2011 data, and we keep on referring back to it. And we didn't know what the trend was. So when I took over as president and CEO for World Trade Center Los Angeles, one of my first things that I did was to basically create a report for Southern California looking at the FDI data. And since then, we now have 9 years of history to basically track it. And over the last few years, in partnership with Emily Desai and GoBiz, they encourage and urge us to basically look beyond Southern California. So we actually did it for the entire state of California, looking at the investments. And the team that's behind the research is our Institute for Applied Economics with LADC, led by Shannon Sedgwick, who's been with LADC now for about 14 years. And she and her team did an amazing job looking at the data, ranking the top investors in this entire region, breaking down the industry, and really getting a true understanding of what that trend's looking like. In partnership with Loyola Marymount University over the last few years, Dr. Richard Tang also did additional analysis to help us look at the comparative advantage, the productivity, and different things. So I am super excited about this next presentation, which you're going to see some changes to our FDI report that we haven't seen in a very long time. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the next speaker, Shannon Sedgwick, our director for senior director for the Institute for Applied Economics.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to keep my presentation brief because Richard has a wonderful presentation to share. But every year, the Institute for Applied Economics, we pull data on foreign-owned enterprises across California in order to measure the amount of FDI present in the state in terms of employment and revenues. So this year, we used an improved methodology to quantify the revenues and jobs associated with those foreign-owned enterprises, or FOEs, and across the state in 2024, and we looked at year-over-year changes from 2023. So currently, there's 18,484 foreign-owned enterprises in California, accounting for just over 800,000 jobs across the state. And that's an increase of close to 46,000 jobs from the year prior, 2023. And they pay an estimated $84.2 billion in wages in California. Manufacturing continues to dominate as the largest industry sector for FOE employment, while professional and business services saw the highest raw increase in FOE jobs with just under 12,000 new jobs added this year. Southern California, we lead the way over the Bay Area with almost double the number of FOEs, associated workers, and estimated wages. And each of our 58 counties have their own unique FOE industry distribution. Here in Los Angeles, manufacturing ranks first, employing about 45,000 workers, followed by professional and business services with close to 31,000 workers, and wholesale trade with close to 28,000 workers. And workers in these three sectors alone, they account for 49%, so almost half of all FOE employment in the county. And at the city level, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Jose, and Irvine all have the most FOEs. So again, Southern California is well represented. So this year's findings reveal that the UK has become the largest investor in the state by the number of jobs, with UK FOEs accounting for over 113,000 jobs across the state. And this is because the UK had significant growth in the professional service sector, building services, and hospitality over the last year. However, Japan, which formerly ranked number 1, they maintain a significant lead over the UK in terms of the number of total FOEs present, with more than 3,000, and that's 69% more than the second place UK. And Japan is still ranked highest in terms of the number of FOEs and the number of jobs associated with them here in Los Angeles County. So you're thinking, what are some of the companies that are making up these foreign-owned enterprises? What are the largest ones? And so if we're looking at the top 2 ranked countries of the UK and Japan, we see that the 3 largest UK FOEs in California in terms of employment include the Compass Group, which is a contract food service company, Deloitte, a professional services company, and Intercontinental Hotel Group. And combined, these 3 companies are estimated to employ close to 31,000 workers. The 4 largest Japanese FOEs include the Sony Group, the Mitsubishi Financial Group, Seven & i Holdings, and TDK Corporation, who combined employ close to 23,000 workers. So this is the 9th edition of our FDI report, and this year the World Trade Center Los Angeles and the LADC Institute for Applied Economics have once again partnered with Loyola Marymount University's prestigious Center for International Business Education to examine the distribution of investment throughout the state, as well as provide a deeper understanding of the investment profiles of different clusters of FDI source countries and regions. With that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Richard Tang from Loyola Marymount to present their analysis of FDI patterns in California, their clustering, source countries, and regions. Dr. Tang?
Thank you, Shannon. It's my pleasure today to represent our team to share some ideas with you about why you should select LA. And here is our team. One team member, Ella, is just sitting there. And speaking of our team, currently our team members comes from 9 different countries, 4 continents, and 1 same planet up now. Speaking of our planet, Earth, up to 2023, there are like 104 different countries and regions that has been invested in California, and 83 of them has been invested in Los Angeles. It is great that there are so many foreign investors, countries investing in California. However, to serve them well, it's very imperative for us to understand their investment patterns to serve them well. Therefore, our team designed a framework to categorize the FDI patterns in California. Specifically, our model looks at each country and region's FDI investment along the 6 following dimensions. First, the investment amount, which is about the economic significance of that country's investment, FDI investment in California. And then second, investment momentum captures the recent growth rate of that country's FDI in California. And on the other hand, stability measures how stable the FDI is in a long term. And then experience is related to the length of operation history of that country's FDI in California. And lastly, as the name suggested, industry coverage and the location coverage capture how breadth the industries and geographical locations that those investments are focusing on. So with those 6 criteria, and our algorithm managed to identify the 4 distinct groups of foreign investors. So we visualize them along the investment amount on the horizontal axis, and also the investment momentum on the vertical axis. So let's review this graph from right to left, a little bit awkward, from right to left. So the first group here, we call them Titans. So this group comes with 5 countries, which are Germany, France, UK, Japan, and Canada. They are all G7 group countries. Unfortunately, Italy is missing from here. And these 5 groups tops 5 of the 6 criteria we are looking at, except for the momentum, which is the recent growth rate, but which is reasonable because of their sheer investment size. Usually, the larger the size, the slower the growth rate. So these 5 countries, the Titan group, represent the foundation of California's FDI investment because their sheer size, long operation history in California, rich experience, and comprehensive coverage in industry and the geographical location. Next, the second group. We call them prospects. The prospects group consists of 23 countries. We call it prospects because in this group, we have countries like China and India, the 2 largest growing developing economy in the world. And we also have Mexico, which is the biggest trading partner of US. We also have Italy here. And also developed economy like Switzerland. By the way, Switzerland actually has the 6th largest FDI in California, only after the Titans. So this group, prospects, represent the highest potential to make more investment in California. So next, the rising stars. Rising stars comes with 6 countries, and those rising star group has the highest recent growth rate in their FDI investment in California. And more importantly, look at these 6 countries. They are from all over the world. For instance, Vietnam from Southeast Asia, Poland from East Europe, Mauritius from Africa, and Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Bahrain from Middle East. So those rising stars, they can serve as a local catalyst in various regions in the world to promote more investment from their local area to California. And lastly, this is a group, we call it Untapped Horizon. So this group, they may not have a lot of investment in California yet. However, look at their profile. They do have remarkable operation experience in California. And more importantly, in this group, we do have countries like Norway and the United Arab Emirates, which have some of the largest sovereign investment funds in the world. And we also have countries like Indonesia with the 4th largest population in the world and the fastest growing economy. And we also have countries like Brazil and South Africa, the 2 golden brick countries. Therefore, this is a group do have the potential to make more investment in California. It is just that those potential is untapped yet. So now, with our framework, algorithm, and findings, our local governments can better serve those international investors according to which group they are belonging to. And also, international investors can adjust their investment strategies according to their profiles on these 6 dimensions. So next, let me address another question. Why you should select California? So first of all, why don't we directly compare California with other states? Here is a graph summarizing the productivity and affordability of each state in the United States. If you are wondering, here is California, the state with the highest level of productivity but not so affordable. And then people might be wondering that why don't we choose a state from the top right, which is such as Texas, being both productive and affordable. But unfortunately, our research shows that productivity matters much, much more. So we relate the growth of GDP, job, and income, the three most important economic indicators, on productivity and affordability. And our research shows that, the result shows that productivity has a significant positive effect on the growth, whereas affordability cost has no effect. And what's more, California actually is way much more productive than many other states like Texas. Let me show you why. In 2022, California's GDP is about $3.6 trillion, account for like 15% of US total. And California's population size is about 39 million, account for like 12% of US total. So if you take a ratio, we get a ratio of 1.25. It means that by only using 12% of the total population, Californians created 15% of value, right? So it means that Californian actually is 25% more productive than US average, right? Great, you're gonna all get A. Do you want to see the ratio for Texas? So here it is. 96%, a little bit lower than 1, so a little bit lower than the average, just so-so. And indeed, if you compare the productivity over the past 20 years, the blue line is California, by the way. So you can see that California's productivity is constantly increasing, whereas the productivity in Texas is up and down all the time, right? So to answer the question, why you should select California? It is a productive state. But you know what? California offers much more. Let me show you another example. Do you know what is this photo? We are talking about aerospace today, innovation, right? So yeah, this is their first photo that human beings has ever taken for a black hole, right? We all know that black hole can, like even light cannot escape from a black hole. So it's really, really challenging to produce a photo like that. To do this, scientists actually adopted several critical technologies like ray tracing, light simulation from movie industry and game industry. But actually, like ray tracing technology, light simulation technology is pretty typical in movie industry. So what's your takeaway? Sorry, you guys just saw that, right? So what's the takeaway? So one might argue that scientists need a Hollywood to realize their scientific innovation, right? And more importantly, we all know that Hollywood is in California, Los Angeles. Well, I don't dispute that, but this example serves another important purpose. It highlights the importance of cross-industry communication and cross-industry collaboration, which lead us to another important concept, economic diversity. So with a more diverse compensation in your economy, in your industry, people get more opportunities to learn from and work with people from a different domain, therefore bringing us some new ideas and facilitating our innovation. And more importantly, with a more diverse industry, we can provide more opportunities for people with very different background. Therefore, your economy will become more inclusive and therefore become more stable and resilient. So on the left is a graph summarizing California's economic composition, each cell represents an industry, and the size of the cell representing the GDP of that industry. So check it out, the size of those cells is pretty even, meaning that California has a pretty healthy and diverse economy. For me, it's just like you go to a buffet, you manage to sample a little bit on everything. Tasty and enjoyable, right? So with that, now let's check out the economic diversity in Texas. So the mining industry occupied almost a quarter of total local economy. I don't know how do you feel, but when I see that graph, for me, it's just like your friend, your best friend invite you to a very good buffet, but you have to eat a 2-pound of burger before that, right? So it's not so comfortable to look at those distribution. So actually, in our academia world, we always craft some index to capture something. For local economic diversity, we do have an index called Hahnemann Index to summarize the local economic diversity. The higher the value in the index, the more diverse your local economy is. So again, blue line is California, as you can see. Over years, California's economy is always stable and diverse. So, as we summarized, pursuing low cost comes with a cost, which is economic diversity. And with that, I want to cite Mr. Gerard Nash, who was a famous historian. And in his classical article published in 1972, 50 years ago, when he was summarizing the economic development, the development of California over the past 150 years, he already observed that California's success was built on its diversity in its people and in its environment. And these two factors lead to more technological innovation, right? That's always good to learn from historians. Their wisdom always shining through time. So now, why choose California? Because it is a productive state. It is a state with high-level economic diversity. So the question now translates to, given California, why we need to choose Los Angeles? Well, that's a relatively easy question to answer. First of all, Los Angeles attracted almost 30% of total FDI in California, contribute to a quarter of FDI-related jobs. And Los Angeles has a very healthy and diverse economy. Check this distribution. The economy categorized by entertainment, educational services, professional services, transportation, which rely heavily on innovation and produce a lot of innovation. And actually, if you look at the economic dynamic index, comparing the Bay Area and Los Angeles, we can learn that Los Angeles, actually the South Coast, actually in general, the South Coast has a more diverse and stable economy over the past 20 years, right? And lastly, I want to conclude with Mr. Alfred Marshall's wisdom on business location decision. He argues that when you try to find an investment destination, a business location, please consider the 3 factors. That is, whether that location facilitates you to transport goods, facilitates you to recruit talent, and enable you to locate with each other, locate with many other businesses, to learn from each other and facilitate your innovation. So if you apply these 3 criteria to Los Angeles, you will find that transportation of goods is corresponding to the strong logistics system in LA, as Adam just addressed very well. And if you think about recruit talent, think about our aerospace company that Adam just described, right? Recruit talent. And lastly, if you think about pursuing innovation by learning from each other, Los Angeles has a very diverse economic composition, right? So in this case, I think we can proudly conclude that Los Angeles has it all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tang, for that overview of the underlying patterns of direct and foreign direct investment in California and the identification of California's FOE titans, rising stars, prospects, and untapped horizons. I will never look at a buffet the same way again, so thank you for that. It's always a pleasure to collaborate with Loyola Marymount University. Now that we have shared an overview of our latest 2024 Foreign Direct Investment in California report, which is available on the LADC website, I'd like to introduce LADC's Vice President of Business and International Trade Development, Allison Clark, to dive even deeper and discuss what these numbers mean and why foreign direct investment is so important. Allison.
Good afternoon. How is everyone today? I'm Allison Clark. Well, I still have gray hair. That photo is very old and I still have gray hair. I was sitting there wondering if I had time to go to the bathroom, and so I did not. So I'll try to make my speech very short. Nothing that I say, by the way, is going to be new, creative, innovative, unlike LA. However, I am going to reiterate many of the themes that all of our speakers have so eloquently put forward today. So first of all, thank you to our speakers, Adam Spice, Consul General Zabe Sheikh. Thank you to Dr. Richard Tang. Thank you to Shannon Sedgwick. These folks are really tremendous. May I get my slides, please? Thank you. These guys are really tremendous in outlining really the importance of foreign direct investment for our region and the importance of engaging internationally. So what I want to do is talk a little bit more about these themes, engage all of you, and provide some additional information about our region that you may or may not have heard to date or today, and also to talk a little bit more in detail about the work of the World Trade Center. What I would like to, first of all, also say is I will try to make this as tasty and enjoyable as Dr. Richard Tang did. And by the way, I love to see that California and Texas are being woven together as big competitors. I've worked in other regions, and Texas was always a big competitor. And as Richard so aptly said, LA is simply the best. I'm going to talk about it in a little bit of a different way. So, here we go. So you'll note the data in today's FDI report, and you can also go to the QR codes, right? It's so vitally important for our regional governments, our consular corps, as they go about the business of developing programs, initiatives, policies based on our top investor countries. The associated impacts as it relates to workforce, our industry sectors, all of these things are vitally important. But why is foreign direct investment important? Why, as an economic development tool, do we even pay attention to foreign direct investment? Well, international businesses add value to our business ecosystem, as our colleagues so aptly put it earlier. They provide amazing technology transfers. They provide productivity and innovation spillovers. They provide access to resources and capital for businesses and organizations. They provide for the provision of additional trained and skilled workforce. Jobs, by the way, that are typically higher wage points for existing workers. They're incredibly helpful, our international business ecosystem, for promoting positive competition, frankly, in our business ecosystem. And on a non-business note, given everything that's going on in the world, international businesses, foreign direct investment are amazingly important for the promotion of greater understanding between and across cultures, and the list goes on. Ultimately, international investments creates jobs for our ecosystem and ultimately enables economic growth, not only for our region, but specifically down to the communities in our ecosystem. So, the LA Advantage. I'm still on this slide, by the way. Still on this slide. On the other side of the equation, international companies seek ecosystems that are thriving, connected, collaborative, innovative. And there's no greater ecosystem, honestly, in the United States that fits this bill than the LA region. My friends, what I'm going to call that today is the LA Advantage. And I'm going to keep calling on you today to reiterate this, the LA Advantage. So, you may have heard from our breakout sessions today on the LA startup community. LA has such a highly differentiated startup ecosystem that's built on a foundation of entrepreneurship, home to over 4,000 venture-backed startups. Our region's strength lies in its innovative ecosystem and not necessarily its concentration of Fortune 500 HQs. However, as you might have heard from Emily Desai with GoBiz, California has the most Fortune 500 startups in the United States. In fact, California and LA does indeed have it all. And also to take some of the data from one of our startup session participants, PitchBook ranked LA as one of the world's top 5 startup cities based on total capital raised, deal count, exit value, exit count, fundraising value, and fundraising count. And from the supply chain panel, for anybody that was in that particular panel, LA has unparalleled supply chain support. Port of Long Beach is the 3rd busiest in the US. Port of LA is the busiest port in the US. Combined, they're the 9th largest container complex in the world. Basically, these ports provide over 40% of the throughput of goods that come into the United States. So I'm not even counting LAX. We've talked about LAX, the importance of LAX, the 75 million passengers that pass through LAX each year. I was in that traffic just the other night. All of those people coming into our ecosystem. But as you've heard from all of our speakers, this supply chain is so vitally important for international businesses. And you'll hear it from all of our consul generals from Canada, Mexico, Finland, Germany, France, Japan, all the folks that are here today talking. This supply chain, this ecosystem, this multimodal infrastructure that in fact is in this region, this, my friends, is the LA Advantage. What is this, my friends? Thank you. I'm going to this slide. Yes. So, Stephen's referenced multiple times, it's not just LA. Businesses don't often just look at one region. There are spillovers into other counties. We are not defined by our boundaries. In fact, Southern California comprises LA County, San Bernardino, Riverside, Orange, Ventura counties. Together, we comprise so many businesses in this ecosystem. It's basically a mega region with 21.7 million people and an economy worth 1.8 trillion. In fact, the 11th largest in the world. The wealth of opportunities in this ecosystem are indeed endless. So I know all of our speakers have talked about the importance of a trained and skilled workforce. In all of my work, in all of my years working in economic development and talking with business leaders from around the world, having a trained and skilled workforce is one of the paramount decision factors as they're deciding where to locate an operation. But beyond that, and has been so aptly put from our speakers in this morning's plenary, LA County is diverse. And that diversity absolutely matters. Not only can this diverse population tap into being a diverse workforce, but study after study have often cited that diversity in the workforce contributes to greater overall returns, greater productivity, greater employee engagement in companies. International companies can tap into this. This, my friends, is the LA Advantage. What is this? Thank you. And everybody here today, throughout this summit and this afternoon's sessions, they're all going to talk about the amazing ecosystem of our industry clusters. We heard it here today from our colleagues at Rocket Lab, our Space Beach community here in Long Beach. Our companies, are not only diverse, and our population is not only diverse, but all of our industry clusters are innovative. And to take what Emily Desai from GoBiz mentioned earlier, companies in this region, and frankly throughout California, are working on the most consequential problems of our time. The innovation in this ecosystem, my friends, is indeed staggering. And I know it's been referenced many, many times about the depth and breadth of our sports ecosystem. All of these major events coming forward, in the years ahead, 11 major athletic teams. But why is this important? I'll tell you. All of these present opportunities for international companies to take advantage of all of the procurement opportunities that are associated with these major events. And importantly, our homegrown industries, our homegrown companies, our small and mid-sized companies, our entrepreneurs can all tap into those international companies that are taking advantage of these opportunities in just one sector alone. This is what we will be driving economic growth in the LA region for years to come. This, my friends, is the LA advantage. I want to talk a little bit now about the World Trade Center LA. You've been given information from Stephen about who we are. We're a subsidiary organization of the LAEDC, dedicated to attracting foreign direct investment to the region and facilitating business opportunities for international businesses. We serve as a regional convener for our partners, both domestically and internationally. And we are here to help and support and collaborate with all of you. We do and undertake a wide array of products and services, including welcome to LA briefings, receptions, events, roundtables, webinars, research reports, and so much more. In fact, we are also engaging in some strategic planning and further bolstering many of our initiatives and efforts, particularly around investments and exports and international affairs, our 3 pillars. So please stay tuned to all of the amazing work that's going to be taking place in the years ahead. We've been very busy over the past few months. Thanks to our friends at the Canadian Consulate and Consul General Zaid Sheikh, we had the pleasure of hosting the Ambassador of Canada to the US, Ambassador Hillman, in our offices over a lovely dinner with members of our team, as well as a cross-section of representatives from Canadian companies throughout the region. We participated in a delegation and overview of the LA ecosystem and my friends, the LA Advantage, with Undersecretary for Economic Affairs and Deputy Foreign Minister Marin Ratnik of Estonia. She also came with small and mid-sized businesses from across her country, across multiple industry sectors, who are interested in fact, setting up locations here in Los Angeles. We also, just in March, at the invitation of US Ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti, former mayor of LA, organized a trade mission to India, the world's largest country by population, one of the world's fastest growing economies, to facilitate trade and investment opportunities. And as Zaid mentioned earlier, we were so happy to join the Consular Corps and Canada as our dean to not only participate in their quarterly meeting, but to launch our revitalized World Trade Center organization. In fact, this is our list of engagements in the first 5 months of this year alone. Even just tomorrow, we'll be engaging with delegations from Taiwan, South Korea, and meeting with representatives from Mexico. My friends, there are no other ecosystems in the United States that can tap in to these types of opportunities. This is truly the LA Advantage. So, in the past 5 months, we've engaged with 34 countries and territories, engaged across 6 continents. Just in this year alone, I can only imagine what the rest of the year holds for us and in the years ahead. Before I talk about our lovely World Trade Center team, I do want to reference the fact that as a longtime economic development professional, economic development does not exist in a vacuum. I am incredibly cognizant that we rely on our depth and breadth of our partnerships with cities and governments, ports, airports, all of our friends in the Consular Corps, all of our organizations and service providers, such as real estate companies, financial institutions. It's so important to have this type of teamwork. And to that end, I want to recognize two pivotal members of the World Trade Center team who have just been outstanding in delivering all of the results that I just talked about. William Powles, who is our Senior Director of International Trade, if you wouldn't mind standing. And Olivia Zhang, who is our Program Coordinator. And I also want to thank all of our colleagues across the LADC who have helped make this event possible. We have members of our business business assistance team headed up by Barbara Levine and Lyndon Johnson. Barbara is also going to be moderating a panel this afternoon about what it actually takes to do business in LA. And just to leave you with the notion of what it does take to do business in LA, my friends, if there's anything that we've learned today, what is it? The LA Advantage. So, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for considering the LA Advantage. And thank you for choosing the LA region as a location for your investments. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. And thank you to all the speakers for our luncheon plenary session. Learned quite a lot. A couple of key takeaways. One, learned that light cannot escape black holes. It takes LA to find the light and show the world what the universe has to offer. So good job, LA. Also, California is 25% more productive, but not only that, but also more inclusive, stable, and resilient. That's a good thing to have. And the third thing is, Texas is just so-so, like that. Next tagline, right? Cheaper is cheaper is not better, and Texas is just so-so. I like that pause, Dr. Tang, I love that. As we're now closing the luncheon plenary, we're going to be moving to our breakout session. I also want to do a special shout out. As you're looking at the report that you guys got when you guys are coming in here, the data is there. There's so much more information that's there. And by the way, some of you have been asking, is the presentation going to be available? Yes. When we're doing our recap, it's going to be on our website. You're going to have the Dr. Tang slideshow. You're going to have the reports, and we're also going to have recordings so that you can have it to watch anytime you want. So you can take the quotes and tweet about it, or actually you X about it. What do you do now? Anyways, use social media to talk about it so that we can actually defend our turf, because we've had a lot of states coming to our territory to poach from us. And now that we know from Adam Spice and from Consul General Sheikh in terms of why folks are here, we need to start sharing the story why it's so great to be in Los Angeles. But in order for us to do this, especially the FDI report, I want to thank this year's sponsor and partner, GoBiz, led by Emily Desai, who you heard from earlier. Thank you so much, GoBiz, for your continued partnership. And pushing us to basically do this report to include more than just Southern California, to do it for all of California so that we can come together and bring the information together. Long Beach Economic Partnership, not only for working with us on this report, but really behind the scenes been really helping us bring all of us here to Long Beach. So Long Beach Economic Partnership and World Trade Center Long Beach, thank you so much for your partnership. Dr. Tang, your entire team, and LMU for years of partnership with us. And again, by popular demand, that's why we brought him back, because we kept on getting emails and messages saying, oh my God, are you guys gonna have Dr. Tang back? He's so funny, he's so great, the information's been fantastic. We can defend our turf. So Dr. Tang, I hope that you're gonna be on standby. We're gonna keep bringing you back year after year. Thank you so much. As we're closing this, last thing is, speaking of partnership, there's so much work that we need to do in order for us to have the talent attraction, to have the business attraction, to have all this work. It's not easy. It's not easy for folks to basically reach out and have this relationship, this collaboration. And that's why we're grateful that you guys have spent time with us, not only today, but going forth, but also before as well, to work together so that we can build this relationship. I have a couple of people in the room that are starting to question where I'm going to go with this, and I'm looking at you, Hillary. I'm sorry, I can't resist. We're going to be launching a new narrative in the future, but might as well test it out now. We need to build a coalition of one, so that we can bring all of LA together, the 88 cities, the 100 incorporated regions, the entire concert core. We need to bring the world together. We need a coalition of one so that we can serve the entire economy, so we can have an economy for all. So the new tagline that we'll be launching soon, that you're going to be hearing and what we're going to be doing, is a coalition of one, so that we can provide an economy for all. And in order for us to do that, we need all your support and all your help to partner with us at the World Trade Center LA, at LADC, so that we can do exactly what Adam was saying, that when there's prosperity that's coming to this region, all the amazing thing that's happening is not just for certain groups here in Los Angeles. There's 10 million people, and we gave you all the great things, but let's not shy away from the hard things as well. We all know that we have the largest population of folks facing homelessness, and the challenges are real. So how do we make sure that the growth and the prosperity are shared by all Angelenos, regardless of their background, regardless of their experience? But it can't just come by wishing it. You have to create these plans. And so I encourage all of you to work with us and continue the partnership. I also want to especially recognize our partners at LA Area Chamber of Commerce. I think Martin is here somewhere. We have also Global LA, who's been a great partner to do the international work that we need to do. The U.S. Department of Commerce, Rashid, we were talking earlier about you. Small Business Administration, the County of Los Angeles, the Board of Supervisors has been so fantastic supporting all the work that we do, and the 88 cities. Once again, we want to bring together this coalition of one. So, as we're moving forward, have that mentality as you're learning from the other breakout panels. The 2 breakout panels will be right outside again, starting at 2 o'clock on partnership ecosystems, collaborations to support LA industries, and also inside LA, what it really takes to do business. After we're done, please come back for the closing plenary session, where we're going to give you another great panel, and after that, we have cocktails on the boat. So remember, if you miss the bus at 4:15, you're going to miss the boat. So make sure that you're on time. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon sessions, and we'll see you back here on stage after your breakout session. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, delegates. Our afternoon breakout sessions will commence in 5 minutes' time. Please make your way to the Beacon ballrooms for the concurrent sessions, partnership ecosystems, collaborations to support LA industries, and inside LA, what it really takes to do business.